Alright, you go camping and you learn stuff the hard way sometimes. Well, here is 9 lessons learned while RV camping. Hey, welcome to 2 Camping Gurus. If you like camping in the great outdoors, you are in the right place. Alright, so we all go camping, or not everybody does, but if you're watching this channel, you probably do, and sometimes you learn things the hard way, and we have too. I've been in that situation where you're out there doing certain things, you find like, oh man, I wish I would have known. Well, today I'm going to talk about 9 things that we learned while camping, and I'm going to share each and every one of them with you. Alright, number one thing, I know one time we took one of our first RV trips and we were all excited and we found a nice campsite that we liked at a campground. We backed in, didn't really give much thought to it, went to bed that night and realized we did not park on level ground. So the camper was tipped, I think it was tipped front to back and a little left to right. So all night long as I was trying to sleep, we kept sliding down. We were in sleeping bags, so the sleeping bags are kind of slippery on the outside, and we kept finding ourselves balled at the bottom of the bed. Very uncomfortable situation. So tip number 1 is when you are picking a site, of course the surrounding area and your view and all that is very important, but really make sure you get yourself parked on level ground. And there's things you can use for that. There's leveling blocks and you can bring planks with you and stuff like that. And if you have a bigger rig, sometimes they have the leveling systems in them. The ones that we use are much smaller units. We don't have those level off as much as we were off that day. We were parked so crooked that it was terrible. So that is lesson 1. Okay, lesson number 2 we learned while RV camping is when you are getting ready to empty your tanks, your waste tanks, always empty the black tank first. And you'll hear, I'm not the only one talking about this, but if you don't watch any of this stuff and you go out camping, you find out the hard way. So if you empty your gray water first and then your black tank, there's always a little residual left in that hose, and we all know that that's not good stuff. It doesn't smell good, and then you got to deal with trying to rinse it out with a hose and all this stuff, and you got to be careful what hoses you use and things like that. So to avoid the bulk of that issue, the best way to do that is to empty that black tank first, get all that sewerage out, and then empty your gray water tank. And what I like to do while I'm emptying the gray water tank is another little tip for you, is I actually kind of take the hose itself and kind of shake it around in a circle as the water is flushing through, because those hoses, as you know, have grooves in them, and that helps rinse the whole hose out as that water is draining. So that is the second tip: drain your black tank first. Alright, so now this is not a tip that I learned personally, but it is one that my dad learned. Always make sure you unplug your unit before you drive away. So if you're at a campground and you're plugged in for shore power, well, when you get ready to leave, you want to make sure that stuff is put away. And unfortunately, my dad's situation one time, he forgot about that, drove away, it came unplugged, and didn't know about it right away. Dragged, I think it was like a 20 or 30 foot pretty heavy duty cord. Lost the end plug, the adapter plug for plugging in at lower voltage or amps campgrounds outlets. So we had to get another one of those. So always walk around your camper, make sure stuff is stowed away, especially the cord. Make sure you don't leave your unit plugged in. Alright, so this one kind of goes back to number 1 when you're looking at a level ground. So this is tip number 4, or a 4th thing I learned while camping, is when you are getting ready to back your unit in, whether it's an RV, a Class A, Class C, a 5th wheel, or a travel trailer, always take a look. Get out of your vehicle, take a look at your surrounding area. Know where your trees are, where the picnic table is, and all these type of things. And if there's other campers closer to you, know your area before you start to back up. And whenever possible, use a spotter. And make sure they are always visible in one of your mirrors, so if they're telling you to stop, you can stop before something bad happens. So again, know your surrounding area, and if at all possible, use a spotter. Lesson number 5 we learned while RV camping, and this one wasn't necessarily while we were RV camping, but we kind of figured it out. Anyways, let me just tell you about it. Use peppermint oil to help prevent rodents from getting in your camper. So if you park your camper for any length of time, then mice and other things like to get in there. As much as we like to get these things sealed up, those little critters always seem to find a way in the smallest little crevice, and where there's a drain hose or something. use peppermint oil. And I use peppermint oil with a cotton ball or diatomaceous earth. If you mix it in with that and put it in a small bowl and like some of the compartments in the camper, mice hate that. It's very their nose is very sensitive to that peppermint smell. They don't like it and they stay away. And if you want to augment that, also dryer sheets are very handy as well. So if you sprinkle those throughout your RV unit in drawers or in cubbies, that'll help keep those mice out. And the dryer sheets smell good. So doesn't the peppermint oil, as long as you don't use too much. If you use a lot, it's going to be even too strong for you. So that is another lesson learned, because one time when we went to take a unit out that was parked for a while, we started to open some of the drawers, and they got a hold of a roll of paper towels, shredded it, and made themselves a bed in one of the drawers. And since we started using peppermint oil and dryer sheets, we don't have that issue anymore. And so you can use that for a lot of things too, even in your house or a vehicle that you park for the winter if you have a vehicle you don't drive in the wintertime. So it's just an added little tip for you. All right, lesson learned number 6. Okay, so this one here is tough, really hard if you're just starting out, and that is don't overpack. We have a tendency to think we need everything with us. Now, of course, you want to have all the essentials, but the whole idea of camping is to get away from the hustle and bustle and all of the extra stuff that's cluttering our life and just enjoy Mother Nature. Get out there and have a good time. So I know a big issue that we learned right off the bat, is we overpacked clothes. If we were going to be gone for just a week, I would have enough clothes for probably 3 weeks, and I have no idea why I did that. I kept thinking, well, what if a pair gets wet? What if this happens? What if that happens? So I tend to overpack stuff like that, but then it ends up being a problem. It's extra weight in your camper. It's space that you don't always have, and it's really not necessary, because I always find every single time I come home with probably 7 or 8 or 9 outfits I never even put on. And that extends way beyond clothing. You don't have to overpack your bathroom essentials. You know, you don't need a giant tube of toothpaste if you're only gone for a week. Every little bit adds up weight-wise and space-wise. So give a lot of thought to how long you're going to be gone, what you think you need, and pack accordingly. Be prepared, but don't go crazy. Don't overpack. You will thank yourself later on. And in the end, you're going to find that if you miss something, it's probably not crucial. So, you know, I always have a checklist for all the important things that I don't want to forget. And if it's something outside of that, you can get by, and probably you won't miss it at all, and you're going to have a great time camping. So, don't overpack. All right, lesson learned number 7, and that is your awning. So we like to put that awning out, enjoy the beautiful weather, especially if it's a hot day, it gives you some shade, or if it's even raining out, you can still kind of barbecue underneath there. But don't leave your awning out when you leave your campsite. You never know when a rogue storm's going to come up and wind's going to start blowing, and next thing you know, you have a damage. Now, there is some of the newer units out there that have the automatic retracting system if the wind speed gets to a certain amount, but I still highly recommend stowing that awning away before you leave your campsite. You know, it could, for many reasons, you know, anything could happen while you're not there. If that's stowed away, that's going to be safe, secure, and ready to use when you need it next time. So that's tip number 7, stow your awning before you leave your campsite. All right, now this one here is really directed towards diesel units. If you have a diesel vehicle pulling a trailer or a diesel camper, when you're fueling, use gloves. For some reason, you can't get that diesel smell off real easily, and when you fuel up, it always seems to be on the nozzle at the gas pumps and around it. You always see like the dark area where the diesel's kind of just oozed out or whatever, but it's always there. You can't avoid it. I have a diesel truck. I know it's always there. If you're out camping and you're in an RV and you have to stop and fill up and you don't use gloves, you're going to smell that diesel smell in the camper on your hands, even after you wash them. So I have a pair of gloves off to the side if I'm going to be driving the truck to fuel up with, so I don't have that diesel smell, especially if you have a driver unit inside your camper. You're not smelling that the whole time. So use gloves when fueling, and it wouldn't hurt to do it when you're doing gas as well. That stuff is hard on your hands. It dries your skin out. So gloves are always a good idea for many reasons. Okay, tip number 9. Now this one here, we did learn, and we almost learned it the hard way. This is a very scary situation for us, but we were, fortunately, we're able to get out of it before anything happened. And that is, know your route. we had a GPS with us, which was handy, but it took us in a particular area that had low bridges. And we got ourselves in a situation where we were on a road that was not set up for RVs, truckers, or anything like that. And I don't have a trucker GPS thing. That certainly would have helped, so that's something to consider. But we ended up having ourselves on a situation where we were hoping the next exit, when I finally realized what had happened, hoping the next exit was going to come up before we came across another low bridge. And we did end up having to pass under another bridge. We had to move over because it was an arch bridge and just barely make it through. Very, very scary situation. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there of people that have gone under low bridges and damaged their units and stuff like that. So know your route. Don't always trust your GPS. Get out a map. Check online. Know the height of your vehicle so you know if you're going to make it or not. And if you have any doubts, get out, double check before you go underneath a bridge or any other thing that might cause an issue up above. So that is 9 lessons learned while we were camping, and a couple thrown in there that somebody else learned that I knew.